Parshas Korach deals with the matnas kahuna, the gifts you give to the Kohen, the achilas truma, the eating of the truma. And in fact, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Trumas, Perek Tezvav Halacha Chaf Beis, whoever eats truma, you have to make a bracha. Whatever you're eating, you have to make the appropriate bracha. But afterwards, if you're eating truma, we know when you eat regular food, you have to make a bracha. But in addition to the regular birkas hanenin you need, v'varach asher kedishelo b'kedushaso shel Aaron, you command me in the sanctity of Aaron, v'sivanu u'echol truma. You commanded me to eat truma. That is the Lashon HaRambam. The Ram writes, and that's the Kabbalah we have, even in Chalas Chutz La'aretz. You still make this bracha, because the Rambam writes, that's considered part of the Avodah. And the Radbaz says, what is the source of the Rambam? Where does the Rambam get this from? So in the core of the Rambam is in the Gevarim Sachem, Ayin Beis Amid Beis, that basically, after the Gemara goes through a discussion, the Gemara concludes, Achilas Truma Begvuin Kavodas Beis HaMikdash, that eating Truma in the Gvuin, in the boundaries, is like performing the Avod in the Beis HaMikdash. That's the Lashon HaGemara in Psachim. So comes along the Radbaz and says, and he asks, Sharei ein achilas truma mitzvus asek achilas. What's the pshat in the Gemara? How can you compare achilas truma to achilas kachim in the Beis HaMikdash? And therefore, he wants to, how can I make a birkas ha-mitzvah asher kedeshelo b'kedushaso shel Aaron? Well, what if it's not like? Why isn't it like it? Because with teretz, what is the Radbaz answer? Shetzivano sheyochu atruma ha-kohanim, that the mitzvah is that the kohanim have the mitzvah to eat the truma, and not the zarim, not the non-kohanim. Sharei zeh bara, because it's clear to me, she'imratza kohen shelo truma, that the kohen didn't want to eat truma. Kol yamav harishus biyah, the kohen has an option not to eat truma if they don't want to. The lo over alas, and they wouldn't violate any mitzvah. There's no mitzvah chiyuvis, they have to eat it. V'im kain, so if we see a kohen doesn't have to eat trumas, how could you make the bracha b'tzivanu? Ela vadai kachu shetziva tetiya truma muteret. The commandment must be that the truma is permitted to them. And since the truma is permitted to them, as opposed to non-zorim, therefore they can make the bracha. But we all know we have a klal, so matino bracha al yisurim. We all have a general rule. You don't make a bracha on something when you're coming to avoid a prohibition. That we have a general rule that, let's say, there's something called mayim rishonim, you wash before you eat bread. There's mayim achronim, you wash hands before you bench. So our meaning is, we pass, we make a bracha on the Netilas Yadayim before and not on after, even though there are some shitas that say after. However, what about mayim emsoim? What about the middle waters? What are the middle waters? So the Rosh writes the middle waters are when you're having in between fish and meat, because the Gemara tells us it's a sakana, it's a danger to have fish and meat together. So therefore you break it up, so you wash your hands in between. So everyone agrees there's no bracha on mayim emsoim, on the middle waters. How come? So the comment is explained because the only time Chazal went to do the bracha is in the performance and the fulfillment of a mitzvah. If you're doing something to avoid a prohibition, if you're washing your hands to avoid the prohibition of fish and meat together, so therefore you don't make a bracha. Or we have the whole Piskei Tshuva regarding an onein. It said something's an onein on Yantiv on Sukkot. So there's a kfura and cholamite. So before the kfura, the onein wants to eat. So the question is, where does he eat? Does he eat in his house or does he eat in the sukkah? Because on one hand, it's not permitted for an oning to do mitzvahs. We've had some machokas Rashi and Tosfos in the beginning of the third parak in Brachas, whether an oning has an option to do the mitzvah or whether it's prohibited. Rashi says it's an option, and Tosfos says based on the Yerushalmi it's usher. That's the way we assume. So an oning can't do a mitzvah. So on the other hand, we know an oning can't do an aveira, can't do an isser. So he seems to be stuck here. If he eats chutz sukkah, so he's doing an aveira, an isser aseh. And if he eats in the sukkah, so he's doing a kima mitzvah. So what is the halacha? So the Piskei Tshuva quotes from the Achronim, he should sit in the sukkah without a bracha. In other words, it's not a compromise. Then why either sit in the sukkah with a bracha or don't sit in the sukkah at all? What's the pshat? Sit in the sukkah without a bracha, and that's this principle. We only make a bracha when we're doing a kiyum ha-mitzvah. If we're doing something to take away, we only do something to fulfill if we're doing the kiyum ha-mitzvah. If we're doing something to avoid a prohibition, so that we never say you make a bracha on. So that's what he's saying here. How could you say v'tzivano here? Shuvomatina bracha al isurim. So therefore, the Rabbi's answer is lo kiyam ha-mitzvah. No, it's not just to avoid an issa, because that's the whole Gemara's question by bedikas chametz. Habodek sarach levarach. One who does bedikas chametz has to make a bracha. So the Rishonim or Achronim are bothered by what happened here? He discovered America, like a tremendous thing. You know what? Before you do bedikas chametz, you have to make a bracha. Okay. You always have to make a bracha before you do all mitzvahs. So why are you singling out bedikas chametz? So they point out, the Rishonim, that because I would have thought that the only reason to do bedikas chametz is to avoid bal yira bal yimatzeh, to avoid the prohibition. What comes along is in mitzvahs aseh. So that's what he's saying here. Yesh kan kiyam mitzvah. Since truma is called avoda, and therefore I feel in ein kan mitzvah chiyuvis, even though there's no mandatory mitzvah, you don't have to eat the truma, like the Radva asked. Still, kiyam mitzvah vada yesh kan. There is definitely a kiyam ha-mitzvah. There is definitely a fulfillment of the mitzvah here, and therefore you make the bracha. So that's an interesting point. Do you make a bracha on a kiyam ha-mitzvah? So we see the mitzvah of tzitzis. The mitzvah of tzitzis, one doesn't have an obligation to put on a four-cornered garment. But if you put on a four-cornered garment, you make a bracha. So we see that you do make a bracha on a kiyam ha-mitzvah. Shechiyavu. So Vadayan, and in fact that's what the Kol Beit Shiurim writes, was Rav Chanan Wasserman points out that P. Divrei Radbaz, that why is it why is it prohibited for a Kohen to eat chametz after 6 hours? It's good, it's also for everyone. Let's say the mitzvah achilas truma tidchel isra achilas chametz achar sheishos. Let's say the mitzvah of eating truma should push off the negative prohibition of eating chametz. There are many answers, but so the Kobi Shurim writes, Shekan ein kan ela mitzvahs kiyum es boval, which is a interesting discussion among the Rishonim itself, whether you say aseh do chalos aseh on a mitzvah kiyum. So just to conclude, that's what we said. The Rambam paskins that when you eat the truma, you make the bracha. In addition to the classical birchas hanenin, you have to make the bracha asher kedesharo b'kedushaso shel Aaron v'tzivonu l'chol truma. What is the source? The Gemara in that eating truma in the Gvulin is like eating kachim. And then we went through, and the bottom line is that there's a mitzvah kiyumis that one fulfills when they eat the truma, even though we don't make brachas on isurim, we don't make brachas to avoid isurim, but we see from truma perhaps and from tzitzis that a mitzvah kiyumis one does make a bracha.